Hi guys, this is Julian. I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the GridRival league that we're starting this year. So once you've launched your app, you're going to launch the league Formula 401, but for this one I'm just going to launch this other one because it's completely empty and I haven't filled this out yet. But you're going to end up on this landing page here under the tab My Team. So over here you have 5 free drivers and 1 empty constructor. What the idea with this league here is it's all contract based. So there is no draft, as in you can't stop another player from drafting a specific driver just because you chose it. Everyone plays with their own roster. And the limiting factor here is the amount of money that you have, which is 100 million euros to start the season. So let's take a look here. So if you go at the top screen here, for me, but there you go. If you go into the league tab, then you can see, how everyone else is doing. So in our league, I believe we should have 8 or 9 players this year, unless someone else wants to join, which they definitely are welcome to. And over here, you can actually check how many points everyone has, how much money they currently have, what is that change in money. So right here, this arrow suggests that there's been no change just because the season hasn't started yet. And then once you click in to a person's, which we can't do at this point because it hasn't started yet, you can actually see what their current locked in lineup is for that weekend or the past weekend. Okay, so going back to the My Team tab, over here in the settings, the cogwheel, there's I'm not sure if the interface is going to look the same way for everyone else, but game guides here is very useful. I believe they've revamped their instructional videos to be a little bit more comprehensive. So basically what I'm doing here, but this is the rule guide. This is the points earning guide. So the points earned here are actually different than what the drivers in the actual F1 drivers and constructor championships earn. So make sure you familiarize yourself with this system. And then finally over here is like, I think, a little more strategy, just some tips and tricks. And that's it. Yeah, just go through that by yourself. Cooperate. Scoring. This is the actual scoring table here. Apologies for the resolution, but for qualifying, so every single weekend there's quali after the free practice 1, 2, and 3, and so quali is when the first points are won and lost. So first place gets 50 points, and then the last, like every subsequent place gains 2 points less or fewer. And then for the actual Grand Prix, the points are doubled here, the potential. So you can earn up to 100 points over the weekend. So basically, if you have max in your lineup, you're going to get 100 points every single Grand Prix. And then every position after that loses about, I believe, 3 points. There's also overtake points. So based on what your qualification position is for that driver, depending on how well they finish, that net position gained in the Grand Prix will gain them 3 points per position. Also, they have improvement points. So I believe, let me see. Yeah, so this basically is calculated depending on their average position and their kind of like their run rate, race over race. There's the beating teammates points, so there is value in actually picking the better teammate of the two, whoever you think is going to be better. And then you also gain more points if they crush their teammate. So like 13 plus positions, you'll get 12 extra points. Finally, there's the completion bonus. So if you complete 25% of the laps, 3 points, 50%, 75%, 90%, 3 points each of those tiers extra. So I believe you don't even need to finish 100% of the race to get the full completion marks. But obviously you won't be getting you won't be optimizing the other points if they don't finish. And then on the constructor side, it's the same thing here, just generally fewer points. So I would personally put less emphasis on spending a lot of money on your constructor, because they just don't sway the point differential that as much. Okay, so what else is here? The rule book, obviously this will open another page for you and you can read through the rule book. And then the terminology, so there's like a good glossary here that you can look through. For these bottom pages here, you don't really have to click through these. Daily fantasy, pick'em, I don't really know what these are. I think these actually might be new things that are unrelated to the league. But if I do find out more and it's relevant to us, then we can actually we can start using this. But I'll look through it over the next week or so. So back to the league tab. I'm going to tell you how to fill out your drivers and how this actually works. So if you have an empty spot, you can actually just go from here and press the plus button, and it's going to take you to the stats page. The other way to do this is just to actually click the data tab up here in the top right corner. So out of your 100 million, these are the 20 drivers that you can currently pick from. So let's just say, for example, I'm going to pick Mac. Over here, it's going to ask you how many races you want to sign him for. And you might be asking, like why would I sign for 1? Why would I sign for 3 or 5? Like, what is the difference here? And the reason why you have to choose this is because there's a 1 race lockout rule, which means after your driver has finished the number of races that you specify here, they will be released from your roster and you will not be able to select them for that next race until it's over, lockdown is released, and then you can actually pick the driver again. So over here, if I wanted Max Verstappen for like his uptime for as many races as possible over the course of 24 races, then I would want to maybe pick him for 5 races, right? Because then I'd have him up for 5, down for 1, and then I can re-sign him for another 5. But if it's a driver that you're not so sure on, or if you think, like 3 races from now, it's not this driver's strong suit, and I might need the money to reallocate to a different contract, then you might pick like 1 race or 2 races, something like that. So anyway, I will confirm the signing here, and then now he's in the roster, denoted by the minus button. And then you're gonna pick other drivers. So the point, this is where it gets a little difficult with the balancing. It is very much like stocks. You only have a certain pool of money, right? And you also want them to be able to grow. So Max here, because he's at the cap of $30 million of value, even if he does as well as possible and does the full clean sweep of the first race in Bahrain, he's not going to actually gain in any value. However, if let's say you chose Leclerc, right, and he actually for some reason just performs ultra well, maybe even second or first over the whole weekend, then his value is going to go up by as much as 2 million euros. This can be anywhere between 0 and 2, and your value can also go down by as much as 2 million euros. So after, like, with a roster of 5 drivers and 1 constructor, and each of them being able to sway up and down by 2 million, you could gain a cap of up to 12 million euros per weekend. That being said, you can also lose that much money. So that becomes your new cap for the subsequent weekend. However, if all your drivers and constructors are still locked in, then you don't really have much to change until their contract is over, like those 1 to 5 races. So if you, for some reason, wanted to release them, you'd have to pay a tax, and I believe that tax is, I think, 3% of whatever they're currently worth. So you could actually release them early. Let's just say, I don't know, like you think that this player is going to be like absolutely horrific this next weekend, or you just need money, and you've made it like a big just like mistake picking a driver, you can actually switch that over. You just have to pay the penalty of 3% of that driver's worth, not of your cap. So let's just pick another driver here. Let's say Alexander Albon. Oops. Let's just add him in. I'm not going to change the number of races here. I'm just going to pad out the rest of the roster so that I can show you what this next feature is. Okay, so we have 5 drivers now, and then we're going to pick the last constructor, and just for the sake of argument, we're going to pick Red Bull here. And you want to get your bank as low as possible, to about like, as close to 0 as possible. If you have like a remainder of 1 to 2 million, that's fine, but obviously you want to optimize that as much as possible. And then once you have all this filled out, now you can select a talent driver. So basically, talent drivers can be selected as long as their net worth is below 18 million euros. So this is very important, because when you select them and you put that star next to their name, only 1 star can be assigned to any of these 5 drivers. Then their points earned for that weekend will double. And so they actually, this year they started scoring sprint races as well. So that's a big change, because oftentimes, like let's say last year Oscar Piastri won the sprint race, he didn't actually earn me any points for that, but this year I would actually get those. So that's a good change, I think, because it's kind of boring if there's races that are happening that you're not earning anything for. So yeah, so I put the star next to Albon. So for this weekend, and until he's released and I've removed that star from him, then he's going to earn me double points. One thing to watch out for, though, is if you select a driver on the cusp of that 18 million, so let's say Gasly, he's at 17.4 million. If I select him for, let's say, like 3 races, and I put him as my talent driver, if he exceeds expectations for the weekend and he is bumped over that 18 million cap, that threshold, then I will not be able to assign that star to him, and I will have to move that star to a different driver. Just something to watch out for. It's not so big of a deal early season, because you will have multiple drivers that are below that 18 million threshold. But towards the end of last season for me, that was like 1 driver out of my entire roster. So you have to be kind of careful there. What else is there? Okay. Lockdown. You can make changes to your entire roster all the way through free practice 1, 2, and 3. This is very, very important, because this actually gives you a clue of how the drivers are going to do over the weekend, especially since there's big changes to the aero, there's big changes to the driver specialty and all that. So you're gonna want to keep an eye on how well they're doing over free practice, and then make your changes all the way up until quali. So basically, until I think the lights out, or sorry, until quali starts, you can make changes. After that, you can't make any changes until after the entire weekend is over, and then one extra day for scoring. So usually you'd be able to start changing stuff up again by Tuesday. Um, what else is there? Um, so you can actually filter these by like, you can look at how well they did like previous years. This might be kind of interesting for you to see, just to have more insight on how well drivers are doing for like previous races. Like how well did like Sergio do at Bahrain last year? Um, and then you can also drill into the drivers statistics. So this is going to give you like their 8 race average, seasonal average, data on specific races for specific years. And yeah, that's about it. I mean, you can poke around, but I'm not gonna tell you everything. So okay, since we're done all of that, we're just gonna go over the actual details of the league. So we have 8 entrants, I think 8 entrants that will be buying into the league. Um, so $50 per person will equal a $400 prize pool. So the proposed structure here for payout is third place gets their buy-in back. Second place gets $125. First place gets just over 50% of the pool. I think this is a pretty decent spread. If there's any other suggestions, please let me know, or objections. And then this is over the course of 24 races, so February 29th all the way to December 8th. If you do think you're not going to be able to pay attention, like let's say you're going for like a couple weeks on vacation, then a good idea would be sign some drivers for like 3 to 5 races, right? Then you don't have to even touch it for that duration. It's only any time that contracts expire that you're gonna need to make any kind of adjustments. Otherwise, you're kind of just watching things happen. But the idea with this, it generates a lot of excitement, right? So every time you watch a race, you're not just looking at the top 10 or the top, like couple players that you or teams that you're cheering for. Now you can start cheering for the bottom feeders, which is actually quite exciting because the midfield, there's no bottom teams this year. At least it doesn't seem like it. It seems like everyone's kind of in that mix in the mid tier. So this is going to be really fun. Anyway, if there are any questions, let me know. Jeremy is also very experienced with this from last year, so reach out to either of us to help.